Hi, my name is Dr. Toni Muhammad, and this is Star and Crescent Backyard Home and Community Garden. This is our garden, and as you can see, we have several things here today. Of course, this is now June, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that we have planted. So if you'll follow me, you can see some of our items so far. This is our okra, tomato, more okra, eggplant here in the center, and of course, all the way on the last row, our lovely yellow squash. We're here today to tell you about the importance of having your own backyard garden. And in a few simple and easy steps, you too can have your own backyard and community garden. Well, to begin, here is our garden, a 6 by 12 foot. We decided that we would plant certain items for our yield. And because we're actually a part of an established home or backyard community food network, we talked with several other persons, at least 5 members, who decided that they would like to also grow foods that we could all share. And of course, our foods were okra, tomato, eggplant, and of course, yellow squash. It's very easy to get a community food network going. Basically, everyone needs to just decide what they want to grow, and of course, they need to grow as much as possible to serve all of the persons within that community food network. So basically, I'd like to show you some of the things that we have grown so far. If you'll come in closer, here you'll see some okra, which has already actually begun to grow. Aren't they absolutely beautiful? And we have several okra also still forming. So this okra is yet to yield, but each plant will produce at least 10 pounds of okra. So we're hoping. Here is our beautiful eggplant. These are called Black Beauty. They're supposed to be rather large, and some people might even call them purple eggplants. But as you can see, they have the purple flowers, and the purple flowers will fall off. And then of course, we'll have eventually the eggplant, which will bud. And this will take another about 4 to 6 weeks for this eggplant to fully yield. Now, of course, with some assistance from our wonderful Southern University Agriculture Master Gardener, Mr. Ron Nichols, our garden is a success. So let's move on over here to, of course, our next row of okra, which is quite tall, as you can see, and is also yielding more okra. Wow, it's absolutely amazing when you grow your own food, and it tastes really good too. And that way you know you're not getting any of the insecticides and pesticides that would normally come when you go to the grocery store. So as you can see here, so far we've yielded some squash. These are some yellow squash, and just a couple of tomatoes. And we still have quite a bit to go in our squash. So as you can see, this is quite a bit of a row. And I'm going to pick some squash for you today so you can kind of see what we're expecting. We want our squash to get at least 6 inches long. And this is about 6 inches long because we don't want them to get too big because they'll dry out. So I see one down here that looks like it's actually ready to be picked. And I'm going to pick that one. And so here's a squash. It's a little small, but we're going to go ahead and pick it anyway. And here's another squash that we can actually pick, and there are a couple of more over there today. So we're just going to move this back, and you have to be very careful with the bugs. Now, there are going to be bugs in a garden, and there are some things that you can buy holistically to help you kind of control the bugs. The things that you really want, though, in your garden are bees. Bees are very important because bees help the pollination process and help the foods to actually grow. So as you can see, here's some squash here, and it looks like it can grow a little bit more, so we're going to leave that one, and we're going to let that grow a little bit more because it's not on the ground too. So when they get on the ground, we really want to go ahead and get them up, because sometimes when they get down on the ground, the bugs, the ants, and other things will come along and they'll start to eat them. So we're moving around here to this other side, and I've actually been looking at this piece of squash for a few days, and it looks like it is ready. So we're going to go ahead and get this one. And that's a nice piece of squash. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, as you can see. And so as I'm harvesting this, I mean, this squash yield is probably going to produce about, overall, I say anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds of yellow squash. And so I have a few other pieces. I'm just going to look in on them and check on them and just see how they're growing. As you can see, here's some squash here. Little pieces that are still coming out, and there are some even down here that are still producing, and there's one here that is actually ready, and it's actually in here with some other ones. So I'm going to move over this way, and if you can kind of zoom in, you'll see it there along with some other ones. So that tells you that we still have squash that has yet to finish. So we're going to have a lot of squash, like I said, when we're done. So that one is another beautiful piece of squash, as you can see. And we saw that one earlier. So we're just going to leave it so it can continue to grow. All right. So we're going to check on the tomatoes now and see how they're doing today. And as you can see, we still have some new flowers that are coming out for the tomatoes. And the tomatoes are, of course, still yielding quite a bit of harvest, and each one of these tomato plants are expected to yield anywhere between 10 to 12 pounds worth of tomatoes. And like I said, they're still growing, so the season isn't over yet, and we have quite a bit yet still that will be harvested. So as you can see, these little flowers represent new growth, and a lot of our tomatoes have already begun to bud. And if you'll come right over here, I'll show you. Look how big these tomatoes are. These are these are called big boys. And big boys get rather large. Now when you go to your farmers markets too, but when you go to the store to purchase your plants for transplanting, because we actually transplanted our tomato plants because we waited a little late, because of course we were trying to wait for the frost and all of that. And so we went on and we transplanted our tomato plants. But our eggplants actually came from seeds, and so did all of our squash. So did all of our okra as well. So here we are back over here on this side of our tomato plant. As you can see, we have our trellises all wrapped around to keep them off the ground, and they're still producing. And we're going to yield quite a bit of tomato. So we're going to come back out here in about maybe 2 weeks. Hopefully our tomatoes will be bright red and beautiful, and we'll pick them right off the vine for you and show you what happens next. Now remember, in the backyard home and community garden, you don't necessarily have to just grow food in a garden. You can also have trees. For example, we have a fig tree, a nectarine tree, and also an orange tree. The fig tree will actually begin to yield its harvest sometime in August. The nectarine tree actually has passed its season, so it won't be yielding any harvest until next spring. But our orange tree, which is a navel orange tree, will actually yield this harvest sometime in December. Now you have to pick plants, of course, that are going to respond well to the weather in your area. And thankfully for us here in Louisiana, this is a very subtropical area. So I wanted to share with you today again the importance of having a backyard home and community garden. And of course there'll be other feature videos to follow this one. I'm Dr. Toni Sims Muhammad, and thank you again for tuning in. Next time we'll talk more about, of course, composting and getting your yard ready for a garden. Thank you.